Is renting better than actually owning a home? Let's take a look at my actual finances and what I'm comparing to as of today in April 2025. I am starting to realize that my house that I currently live in is pretty expensive with my current day-to-day expenses, monthly expenses. I, to be honest, have second thought to myself, my investment in my current home. I bought this duplex back in 2022. Of course, whenever I initially purchased this home, I utilized a mortgage and a lender. I'm a veteran myself, so whenever I was looking at mortgage options, I was able to qualify for a VA loan, which helped me put a 0% down. Even though it's been significantly less than most other people, I still have second thoughts of purchasing my home. Every single month, I think to myself, am I regretting this or am I just overthinking it? Because of this doubt that I have in myself, I decided to do a little bit more analytical research instead of relying on emotions. So this is where we're gonna do it. I created this Excel. I've already processed everything. So I'm just gonna go through it with you so then you could see and determine whether you wanna purchase a home or not and how you wanna manage your money in terms of the next couple years. In my current property, it's a duplex, so two different units. The downstairs unit is a 1 bedroom, 1 bath, about 625 to 680 square feet, and then also has a backyard, plus also a 2-car carport. And then upstairs, where I currently live in, I live in a 3 bedroom, 1 bath home. So what is happening right now is that I live upstairs, downstairs, same address, and it is sub-metered in terms of the electricity. So what I'm gonna do is just go through the home expenses right now, and this is what you see here with the number of 2 units. This is the average rent per unit, and this doesn't really matter in this case because we're analyzing between an apartment rental versus what I currently live in right now. As of right now, I am collecting $12.75 flat for my downstairs unit for the 1 bedroom, 1 bath, and this includes the water, so I'm covering the water with this. And also we split the internet bill, so that's why you see the $12.75 here. On top of that, what is happening is this is basically the total amount, and this vacancy, percentage of vacancy, is essentially, I calculate it as 10% lost, because roughly about every year or two, the unit is vacant about a month to a month and a half. A 10% vacancy lost would be just in considering the monthly rent. It is a expense amount that most people do not calculate, and if you're an investor and you have done this yourself, the highest expense that no one ever sees because you legitimately, it's just vacant there, sitting there, not generating income. So it is the highest expense that most investors see. What I'm trying to say is that you should always calculate this whenever you're thinking about purchasing a duplex or creating some sort of revenue in terms of your primary resident or whatnot. That is totally the gross monthly operating income. So we go over more of the operating expenses, and this is where it really gets me. I really regret purchasing, and it goes towards my mind goes towards regretting purchasing this home. One of the biggest things that I am calculating is really the repairs and maintenance. With this home that I purchased, it's legitimately the frame itself and the parts of the foundation is built in 1900, literally 125 years old. So this house has a lot of problems. It's because of an older home. I have to put a lot of money into this repairs, maintenance, things like that. So I calculate this right here. You can see it's 10% of the rent amount. Cell C11 is the rent amount, which is $12.75, and that's what this number is coming out of. And because I'm also a disabled veteran, I'm able to cut my property taxes significantly. So this is a very, very advantageous way for me to take advantage of my current disability status. And this, because it's a rental, it's supposed to be 0, okay? Because I'm a 100% disabled rating veteran, it should cover and waive all of the property taxes. But because part of my primary resident address is a revenue generating unit, it does not allow that. It's illegal to really do that and tax evade. So I am honest and I report that my current unit downstairs is generating income, therefore they tax me on it. I know, great, thank you, Uncle Sam. But anyways, this is the monthly property taxes that you can see. This is just the annual, and you can see that labeled here. And then here is the rental property insurance. It's relatively low, mainly because I am a primary resident here. So it's essentially like $1,500 per year divided by 12, and that's $126. And then the replacement reserve. This is significantly high, and you can see this number here, $8,020. And how I'm getting this number is that as of April 2025, and we're April 20th right now, it's Easter Sunday, I have spent $8,000 on my house from January 1st of this year to this month and this day. Okay, there's about $8,000 of repairs and replacement of things that I've done so far. So what I've calculated based on my most recent amount of data that I have, I really haven't done too much with the house the past 2 years. So what I'm trying to do is that's why I'm dividing this number by 24, because there's 24 months in 2 years. So the average cost, averaging out, is about $334. And I think this is a pretty good estimate, mainly because the past year and a half, the past 2 years, I really haven't done anything besides the past really 2 months. So this big bill hits usually really, really hard. And it's, upwards of almost 10 grand, right? And so what I'm trying to do is to realize what the number is between the whole amount of the term that I've owned this, and then divide it by 24, and you kind of get the average. And why I divide by 24 is because first initial year and a half that I owned it, I put in a significant amount of money that I've already calculated before. And this is due to foundation repairs, floor replacements, because my past tenant moved out in February, so I replaced all the floors downstairs and also upstairs that I currently live at. And then also there have been, the foundation has been shifting, and I replaced my foundation, almost replaced it the first year that I've owned this house, but it continues to freaking shift because it's a pairing beam type of foundation, so hate it. Also, there are other expenses like regrouting the shower downstairs, because some of the grout was coming out, it's older, and the grout just needs to be replaced whenever the tenant moved in. And then there's some other stuff like putting in a cabinet, things like that, that's knickknacks. That's where I'm getting these like renovations type of reserve. This is what that exactly means. And so I'm roughly spending about like $334. And so this is all the other utilities that I cover. This is not accounting the tenants' utilities. And you could see that the water, I pay about $45, which includes mine and also the tenants. The gas, I pay about $20. Electricity, it's just my unit that I'm paying for, but it's an expense because I'm comparing it to an apartment rental. So I keep that there because that is how much I pay for currently living here. And then garbage is about $20 for the garbage dump. This should be $50. Apologize for that, because even though it's $51, even though I am charging the tenant $25 for internet, we're splitting the bill essentially. So this is why it's $51, and I initially thought it was $25. And then pest control, as most people do not know, there's a lot of money involved with pest control. Like you buying the things, it's not that hard. It's not labor intensive. It's just buying the materials and then utilizing it. I would say roughly I've been spending $25. There are like different services out there, and I've recently changed more DIY type of solutions. So I've been buying stuff from Amazon, doing a little bit of research, and I think it comes out to about like $25 per month. It can go up a little bit more expensive when I initially purchased the property, but it's if you hire a professional to do so. And all this information over here is useless, but you can see that I took a loan amount of $309,000 to purchase this house. I actually paid initially like $6,200 more because the purchase price of the house that I purchased here is around $315. Okay, so the down payment is $0, mainly because it's the VA loan, and I secured a 5.75 interest rate for the next 30 years, and it's not a ARM or a variable loan, so it's a flat rate. Going to be like that for the next 30 years until I refinance, or if I decide to. Mortgage payment is roughly around like $1,800 right here. And you can see this is just a breakdown of the numbers. It's not that important because what we're really trying to compare right now is monthly expenses. So the more important question is what it comes out to with all of these numbers combined, because I'm getting money from my tenants and I have my own expenses of living here, and also what's the mortgage payments on top of that. So how does that come out to? This number right here, $1,608.82, $1,600 or $1,610, give or take, is how much it comes out of my pocket for living here. And this is a negative number because you could see that the total monthly cash flow before taxes and everything like that is really here. I don't pay taxes because I lose money living here. I have to take money off of my own account and pay it because of all this debt, all these expenses that I have. And you might be thinking, oh wow, $1,610 is not a good investment to pay in because you're supposed to be cash flowing because you're living in a duplex and it's an investment property, etc. I know most people do not tell you this, but as of today's market, it is very, very hard to cash flow. Significantly hard. It does not help that I decide to purchase a really old home that comes up with problems. This thing is 125 years old. So with that being said, I purchased in a decent neighborhood that I think it's a gentrifying neighborhood. It's changing a lot. I think I see the potential in the next 10 years. The value of this house will probably skyrocket based in San Antonio. But at the same time, this is how much I'm costing myself. Every single month and every single year, I pay around $1,600 or $610, and every single year it probably increases based on inflation, etc. Not only on top of that, I have to manage my tenants. So if a tenant comes to me, just for example, yesterday, something wrong with the lock, and it's a smart lock that I installed. It was not working properly, so she called me at like 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. on a Saturday, right? Thankfully I'm upstairs, so I go downstairs to fix it because this is me as a landlord being responsible and helping the tenant out, right? I don't want to be that type of asshole that just charges rent and do this stuff. I try to do my best, I believe, in my head to really take care of the people that I'm servicing. So with that being said, it's a sacrifice. It's a cost that you don't see here. These are all just numbers. The amount of time that I have to spend to do research, the amount of time that I have to do and find good contractors, and also go through, let's just say, for example, something happened with my carport roof. That's the tree we cut down right behind it. The contractor did something wrong, and the branch fell down on my carport and destroyed partially of my roof. So that's like things that you don't see here on the numbers. You don't see the sacrifice emotionally and also the investment of time and going towards different things like that you have to deal with. And that is very, very important to understand, because you as a renter that rents from an apartment complex, from a private owner, from any landlord, you don't have to deal with that, really. I mean, the only emotional damage, I guess, is like if a landlord does not fix your stuff right away. Sure, that's emotionally turmoiling, but on the other side of it is that the landlord and me, for example, I have to do all this stuff in the back end that you don't see in the numbers. You don't see this every single day. You don't hear about it. It is a significant amount of sacrifice that most people do not realize it, because people think that landlords just collect cash every single month and not do anything about it. If you're a proper landlord, it is pretty difficult to cash flow nowadays for the market. So with that being said, we're going to go towards the analysis that I think I have for an apartment complex. If I decided to rent, and I'll put it side by side right next to each other, I would have lived here in the downtown San Antonio area. I love this area. I love downtown San Antonio. I see a lot of potential. I see a lot of life, and I like being around it. It is very, very fulfilling for me to live here, and that's my personal preference. So whenever I decide to go to rent an apartment, if I was in my own mindset right now, where would I go? So me being an apartment locator, I know the best deal with this, right? I could find the best deal, and I think based on what I've seen so far, I probably need a larger one bedroom to fit somewhere, because right now I currently have a 3-bedroom, 1-bath. I would probably have to downsize if I was to change, like by next month, move into an apartment, take away a lot of stuff or put it into a lot of storage. But with that being said, I'm pretty minimalistic in terms of my belongings. I could sell a lot of stuff right away. I could give it out for free. I'm not too attached with material stuff, so I could give it away for free. So with apartment rentals, you don't really generate income. We go directly, instead of any operating expenses or operating income, we go to really the monthly expenses. So the biggest thing is really like your renter's insurance. I go with USAA. I think I will pay about like $12.50 to like $15, so it's not that expensive. Water and sewer, I believe it's around like $25. The last time I lived in an apartment was like 4 years ago, so I think 25 is good. And electricity is probably significantly less than what I currently pay for. Because it's a one bedroom, the square footage is smaller. So based on the past 4 years ago, I think $65 is a pretty good number to be around. Residential fees, I take this directly from the apartment complex that I think I would live in. So this is an actual number, $70 that they will charge. Internet, I would have kept with Spectrum, and so I would have been $51, the same expense that I had with this current house. And then with the parking garage, I would like to have a parking garage based on what I'm used to, because I have a carport, and also it's gated if I decide to go with a parking garage. So I would pay $50 directly to the apartment complex. And rent, I will add this later on, but on top of my rent, I at least have to pay $273. And then if we scroll down to really here, this is the app and admin and deposit. So this is like the initial investment or the down payment is $465. And then also with my rent amount, I based on the numbers that I've calculated and also choosing the unit that I would love to live in, I'm probably going to be comfortable in, it's probably around $1,758. So all in all, the total expenses of both all the residential fees and the rent combined is around $2,041.50. And of course, the initial down payment is significantly less than what I did with my house, right, about a couple of years ago. My initial investment and also like I guess the down payment to cover the difference in the loan was around $6,200. So it is a lot less if I go with an apartment of $465. So this is the breakdown, right? The monthly expenses, what I could see based on the apartments that I would choose versus the cash flow or the negative cash flow that I would have with my current house, I technically pay less. Even though the expenses is higher for an apartment in comparison to my current living situation, the only reason why it is lower is because I have a tenant. That's the only reason why. If I lived in a single family home elsewhere, not generating income, it would probably at least 1.5 times $1,600. It is because the age of the home that I have. It's a 125 years old home. What do I expect whenever I purchase something like this? So if I purchase a newer build, newer builds nowadays is slightly higher than the pre-owned, especially around the neighborhood. If I'm purchasing around neighborhood, I would have closed on a lot higher price point. So it changes a lot of factors, but the main driver I want to pick and tell everybody is that it really depends on your lifestyle and what you're valuing. Because as a rental, in 12, 15 months, whatever it is, it's temporary. I can move, right? I'm not latched onto one specific property for an extremely long time. A year and a half is not that long. With a house, I've been here ever since 2022. So it's been 3 years. It's been 3 years that I've never moved. It's very convenient for me to like stay here and do all this stuff. But you could see that it takes me a lot of time. There's a lot of sacrifices in the back end that you won't see me like deal with contractors, talk to this, meet this, do this. Oh no, the roof something's wrong. You gotta fix this, you gotta fix that. There's a lot of stuff in the back end that you do not see, and that's the reason why I'm paying less, and also because of the tenant. But if you were to choose a different lifestyle where you don't want to worry about it, you pay a premium. You pay a premium for living at an apartment complex because you don't have the stress to deal with this. You don't have to have the stress to deal with it. And that's the most important part that most people need to understand. You make your own decision based on what your priorities are. I'd rather sacrifice my own mental health and my own time and all this other things to save a little bit of money because I know I could put that money elsewhere. But for a lot of people, they probably prioritize a little bit of comfort, right? They prioritize being able to move around every single year or every other year. And that's super important to them. To me, it's not. I'm cool. I'm cool staying where I am, and I'm willing to give up a little bit of effort and time and all these things to save a little bit of money and putting it back to my pocket, and also having a chance to roll the dice in the next 5 to 10 years whenever the value of this neighborhood increases. Regardless of whether I purchase or rent, I have to live somewhere. So I rather live at a place that I put the money towards a payment back into myself, because essentially that's what it is. A mortgage and a house is really like a little savings account, if you would like to think it like that. That's the best analogy I could do. But rent in itself, it never goes back to you. The only thing that goes back to you is maybe your emotional comfort, your time, and all these things that you decide this is more of a priority, and I probably would have saved a lot of headache, and this headache is probably going to make me a little bit more money. You know, this whole little rigmarole flowchart that you have to consider on your own personal beliefs and your own personal values and your own personal effort and comfort. So with that being said, it's all up to you on what you would like to do. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Really appreciate it. If you like it, please give me a thumbs up. We'll appreciate all the support and hope to hear from you soon.